me to change that money. I thought I had a responsibility. And we have to look at when we're in corporate America, in business period, what's our responsibility? If I'm the front line person and I'm working at a Denny's, a Steak and Ale or something like that, I'm the host. It's my responsibility to treat you good. It's my responsibility to exercise my communication skills so I can get better in the future. So when you look at going into entrepreneurship, that's all these small skills that you have. You have to apply those to your business. Just like you work for somebody, you have to educate yourself and practice. Your communication skills all the time have to be superb when you're out in the world, when you're going from employee to entrepreneurship. You have to practice certain things on the weekend, on Saturdays and Sundays. What events are you going to be going to so you can meet people that's on boards, so you can tell them what you're doing or what you want to do, or you can go shadow someone. So it's a nice process, but it takes a lot of discipline. My first 2 years, when I wanted to own a company, my first 2 years was working on my communication. I wanted to be confident in telling somebody, hey, my name's Jason Dixon. I want a company. I'm not sure what company I want to have, but I want to start hearing around people that's in business so I can see what type of talk path they have. How do they talk about their business? What does their elevator pitch look like? What does that sound like? And how do I apply that to myself? And then I had to learn how to tell a story about my life in order to get into the game of doing business. Because most of the time people do business with you because they like you. They like you because you're Black and you're in business. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So if I'm in a company and I say, I'm gonna give you an example. In shed number one of our first contracts we did, shed number one, in 99, it was 99 to 2000. Most of the family, when they did the family reunions, we was doing most of the shirts out of shed number one. Everybody who rented that shed from the city of Detroit, they would always direct business to us to do the embroidery work and do the screens overlay for the shirts. So we had to go out there. We took the people to church. We went out there and greeted the people. We always had somebody on a Saturday or Sunday, whenever the family reunion was going on. We'd always greet the people, and we always send them a letter of thank you, because we saw that what was happening in corporate America, and we asked the questions, the same thing. What should we do in our small business that we do in corporate America? Because we also learned that it takes 1% to keep a customer, and it takes 15% to infinity to get a new customer. So once you have that person in your fray as a customer, you want to keep that person. Even if you're not making money off that person, they're still your customer, because you don't know who they're going to tell about your business and tell about your character. So as you're working in corporate America, or you're working in your whatever business there is, you have to start shaping and molding that character that you want to be once you have once you start working on your exit strategy. The next thing we really want to talk about that, again, we want to talk about that discipline of how you're spending your time. Because most of the time, people that's entrepreneurs, they forget that, once you become an entrepreneur, that 8-hour day that you had, it turns into a 16-hour day. It turns into a 20-hour day. Because the simple fact is, you have to play every role. You have to be the CEO. You have to be the delivery person. You have to be the marketer. You have to be all those things for a certain amount of time until you can build up enough contracts where you're able to pay somebody to take those roles on, or have somebody in your family that you can trust and that believes in your vision. Because that goes back to that communication. You have to have somebody that's going to believe in your vision to help you move to the next level. Because just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you're the boss. You're really not the boss anymore. Everybody becomes your boss. It's a thing that my dad talked about. Your customer service goes to your interior customer service and your exterior customer service. Your interior customer service is how you're treating the people that's around you on a regular basis, because you want to make sure you're treating them with dignity and respect, because they're the ones that's going to be talking about you when it comes to whatever your business is. So those are your marketers. So that's your internal customer service. So we always have to have good customer service skills. And that's part of that exit strategy for being that corporate America to going into your business. Now, once you figure out what that business is, and you say, well, I want to be, like right now, I want to do community development when it comes to fiber optics, stormwater infrastructure, things of that nature. So now I know that I have to go to cities and talk to their civil engineers and things of that nature. So I have to build relationships with those people who business that I want to be in. Then I have to look at who's all the vendors that I'm going to be utilizing. So once I find that out, I get my list of vendors that I'm going to be utilizing their product and spending money with. So I'm going to build relationships with them. I find out when do they have a talk, something with the customer appreciation day for their program, their business. I'll go show up at those places, shake some hands, talk to some people, let them know what my goals are, and start the process. And then you got to find out, again, who's cutting the check. Oftentimes we don't find out who's cutting the check until we got in the business, and we find out we can't even get into this business. Now, I've had that happen to myself before. That I was so gun-ho on getting something, and then I found out that I didn't have the right credentials to even get a check. But I've set everything up. So, you guys have any questions so far? Because I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
But it's good information, so taking notes.
Actually, okay. You're not really rambling, but that's good stuff for people to know, because particularly that knowing who cuts the check is the biggest one. Many of us have been in business and we've learned that the hard way, but it's always good to know that up front, who does cut the check, because sometimes a person that looks like they cut the check are not the ones who cut the check. No,
they're not. It's a lot of fakers out there that want to be the guy, and they're not the guy. So you have to find out really the question that I learned to ask now: who's actually the decision maker? Who makes the decision? Because that's who I want to talk to. I want to talk. If I find the gatekeeper first, once I get past the gatekeeper, who makes the decision?
Talk about that, because a lot of times people are stymied by the gatekeeper. How do you make that work for you?
That's the process. So with the gatekeeper first, I'll give an example. If I have a person I got to deal with, especially somebody at a bank, I'm going to call 10 of my friends and ask them who has a relationship with that person, especially when you're doing something in the city of Detroit. Everybody knows everybody. It doesn't matter what color they are, right? So first I'll find out, I want to do business with this company. Who's the person who lets you in the door? Oh, you got to talk to Margaret. So what is Margaret like? Oh, Margaret's she goes to church, she sings in the choir. Margaret likes baseball. Margaret has 2 kids. One's getting ready to graduate. So you got to find out those things to be able to connect. You have to, if you don't have the person that you know that knows that person to talk to you, to create that connection for you. When you go into the office, you have to be, when you go into the office, first thing you do is look at the photos that's on their desk. You look at the colors, you give something that you can compliment that person to connect. You got to find a way that you can connect by something that's in that office that's standing out. A lot of women who are deltas have elephants. Mm-hmm. So I've learned throughout time, if I see elephants, I ask, oh, that's your good luck charm. You must be a delta. And you're going to see something red. So that's how you compliment and you break some of those fears down, because being myself younger, in my younger days, black people and white people didn't believe that young men can have businesses and then communicate in a business sense. So you have to break down some things and let them know that you can communicate on their level, because people communicate in different ways. So you got to figure out that gatekeeper's communication, what their thing is. And you can do that by sitting there, and you can do that by asking questions.
So let me ask you a question. So do you go up the chain or do you go down the chain?
I try to go down. I don't like going up.
And when I say to change, is that you can either start at the CEO's office or you can start on the bottom. And I had a
I know, I get
conversation.
it.
I had a conversation with someone. I'm now of the mindset that I always start at the CEO office, even if I don't know anybody, because they help
You
get me to
should.
know people very quickly.
First of all, if you start at the CEO level, you can understand your value. Because sometimes we can misvalue what we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you start at the CEO level and start that communication, you can ask the right questions, because you have a service. That doesn't mean that they need your service, because you can have a service, but they've had this same relationship for 20 years and they love it. And you're probably not going to break that cycle right away. So you got to say, well, how much time am I going to spend to break this cycle so I can get a piece of that pie? So if you start at the top and build that relationship with the top, you can save yourself a lot of time, a lot of trouble, because time is money at the end of the day. I'll give you an example. When Obama changed the law when it comes to 10% renewable energy, I already had a relationship with DTE. I talked to Ron May, he was the vice president at the time. I said, Ron, if I could bring you 10 contracts in a low to moderate income community with businesses to do solar, would you play ball with me? He said, absolutely, Dixon. He said, how do you expect to do that? I said, well, I've already been talking to some businesses on Livernois where my business is about doing solar energy, because we need to bring the value up. He said, call me in the morning. I'm gonna put you in contact with my renewable energy team, and we get it done. It took us 7 days to get the deal done. All I had to do was take a contract, put DT on the contract with the supplier and my company, and we had a deal. And that's starting at the top.
But how did you know how to reach out to that particular person? How did you get their name, their contact information?
We already had a relationship.
Okay.
We already had I knew I wanted to be in energy at some point in time, because I'm listening. See, I'm following the money. So I'm thinking that I want to be in energy. So I'm a member of the Detroit Athletic Club. He was on a bowling league, so I wanted to make sure I met him. Talked to him. We had a relationship. Then the change came down with solar energy, and the opportunity was there. You know, we was already prepared. We already prepared, knowing the sectors of business that we want to look at, that we want to be in.
So if you don't have a relationship with the person already, how do you, first of all, get the information of the person that you want to connect? And how do you build a relationship with them if you don't already have one existing?
So that's that homework piece. Like that's that piece of work when you get off work. So when you got your regular job, you're gonna go to work with a list. You're gonna go to work with a list of things that you want to do, and you make that part of your talk path. I'm not gonna talk about my kids. I'm not gonna talk about a vacation. I'm talking about the people who I want to meet. I'm gonna be talking about. I'm gonna put that in the universe. The people who I want to talk to move my vision forward. And if you're not speaking my language, I'm not going to talk to you. And that's what brings it quicker, because now your friends know that you want to meet a certain person. I'll give you an example. I wanted to meet a Black community relations president of a bank, vice president of a bank. So I started talking about Community Reinvestment Act, because that's part of the business who funds the business that I have now, because they have a need to do projects in low to moderate income communities. So as I did that, it took about 30 days. I got two banks that I got put in front of when it came to Community Reinvestment Act. And now I have a relationship with their vice presidents, and we're talking once a week. So you have to go fishing. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. You got to be fishing all the time for talent and fishing for who you want to meet to get that contract. Now I'm gonna give you an example. On LinkedIn, what I've been doing at night in my downtime on LinkedIn, I'm looking for who's ever in banking, who's ever in community development. On LinkedIn, I'm reading it and I'm going through it. Who's in IT? So my goal is to get to 3,500 people, and then I'm gonna start doing videos. And then I'm gonna start talking about the people who I want to build a team with. And that's gonna attract those people if they want to do some business, or their mind is open to do something different.
And it's funny that you bring up LinkedIn, because I have like 10,500 connections on LinkedIn, right?
Wow.
And I've been working at it for the last 5 years. So, but what I did, I cheated. I didn't say I did all of it myself. I use all type of resources to get information. So I found this resource called Fiverr. I don't know how many people have ever heard of them, but in order to get my LinkedIn started, I let them do the first leg of 3,000 people. And I told them I'm looking for HR people, I was looking for IT people, and I was looking for funding community relations people. So I paid for them to get my first 3,000.
Wow.
So you don't always have to do the work yourself. Sometimes you can outsource it. Now, what I love about Fiverr, when you say it outsources, it does outsource to the other countries. And I think I may have spent in total $200 to get those 3,000 people. But that was key to me because I told them I only wanted to do people who were VP and higher and all over the country. And so they kind of got me started. Now, why is that important? LinkedIn to me is a new networking. Because first of all, not everybody goes to LinkedIn. Most of the top people go to LinkedIn. And if you use it in a way that makes it, you put sizzle to what you do, you can get people on your team very quickly. Like they have a button that's called connect. And usually when I go into connect, rather than just hitting a button to get a connection, I put a description of my business in the connect because they let you get 300 characters. And I can't begin to tell you how many people have gotten back to me
Absolutely.
to say we want to do something. So I have an investor that I'm entertaining right now because I did that because he couldn't invest. So he sent me to the investor who invested in his business.
Absolutely.
That investor just happened to be a UAD alumni. Who would have known? So now I'm trying to connect the deal between me and UAD with this investor. But all of that came from LinkedIn from people I don't even know. Right. Because I made the investment that every day that I was going to do something on LinkedIn and be able to find people who would help me on my cause.
Right.
So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I say go and make it beautiful. Upload as much information about yourself and what your goal is. And even more importantly, give yourself a tagline. My tagline on LinkedIn is called Creating Wakanda. So when they go to my profile, that always blows everybody away because the first thing they go, what does creating Wakanda mean? And I explain, I'm going to turn this tech thing into an R&D facility and I'm going to create what we saw in that movie Wakanda. That blows people away. After that, they tend to say, oh, yeah, what can I do to help you?
Right. Right. You got to be able to sell your story. That goes back to that 30-second elevator speech. You have to be able to say your story and what you want to accomplish to make sure it's some buy-in, and you got to practice that. I'm not saying practice that with your friends. You can practice with your friends to see your octaves and see your movements at first, but you got to really take a chance to get in front of some real people to sharpen your skills because it's going to take some time to get comfortable communicating about something that a business that you haven't done before. It just takes a moment to get that done, but you got to practice, and really it's based on your orientation skills and then your written skills because you always should have a document, a one-pager on deck if you want to start a new business. If you're in a business, whatever those goals that you have, you need to carry that one sheet around for a few different reasons. One thing is when you have off time, you can always read through it and critique it and fix it. The next thing, if you want somebody to get to know you, you can say, hey, here's my one sheeter. They'll tell you everything about what I'm doing, what my goals are. And it's right there. And then that'll give them in their mind that you're ready. I used to have a laminated sheet that I would pass around oftentimes so people could see what's going on with my medical supply store, what in the doctor's lounge. And it had, how long it takes to get oxygen from my company, how long it takes to get a hospital bed, how long does it take to get a wheelchair, and how long for the whole process, because time is everything in the hospital. So I had that laminated sheet that I have in the doctor's lounge, and they could be able to pass it around. If somebody gets some food on it, they can wipe it off. So then they knew my name. So at the end of the day, you got to find out when you're in certain businesses, what's those key things to pop real quick, because you don't have a long time to talk to people. If you're going to talk to a CEO, you might not have, you got 3 to 5 minutes at first. At best, 3 to 5 minutes. Get it 3 to 5 minutes. Know what you want to talk to, your top things that you're really good at. Talk about that. If they give you some more time, settle down. Once you get out what you got to get out, you have to settle down and listen to them and listen to what they really want. And they might not even talk about what you want to talk about. But sometimes the CEO wants to see, are you able to have a conversation? so then they can open up other doors for you, because they want to show how they're in this position and they're bringing people along. But it takes time for you to listen to, you know, what they say, what they don't say, the verbals and nonverbals. And that's how those are the skills that you got to work on while you're still in your job.
And it's good that you say that, but the one thing I noticed that people overlook is that the CEOs or the executive secretary, most of those secretaries are executive level, and they're well beyond what you would consider a clerk. And they're your gatekeeper, and sometimes being able to have your story for them, because they're going to get you in and out of the scenario. And I am just amazed that, you know, I deal with a lot of executive secretaries, and when I make their pitch, they go, oh, that is so interesting. Send me the email. And then they kind of work their magic. But a lot of times I find that people tend sometimes to be rude to them. And that's like the mistake of the century.
When you're in business, you shouldn't be rude to anybody. I mean, you know, you have to eat crow all the time. I mean, even if you're in a relationship. So if you're in a relationship and you got a girlfriend, look, you want to be humble as pie all the time. You have to learn that, because loose lips sink ships. And, you know, especially in the city of Detroit, you got a lot of small businesses and things. You do not have an opportunity to be rude to anybody, because you got to remember your value. You can be nice, nasty to people to let them know your position, but you should never be rude. You should make sure that you're always talking positive and say what can happen, and not say what can't happen, because you don't want somebody to say what can't happen with your opportunity, your business. You always want to go in with a warm heart and warm spirits. No matter what goes on in your day, your household, whatever, it's like a transformer. You have to transform. You have to take that negative energy that you had if something happened and turn it into positive, and think of all the positive things, because you can see it on your face. So, you know, people want to do business with energized people. You know, you can't go in lazy. You got to go in with some energy. Your octaves have to be right. You have to practice those kind of things, but you don't want to give anybody any negative energy, because you're going to have to cross that path more than once. People change jobs. People talk about you. People will say, you want them to say positive, that they want to like working with you. You gotta get to that point, because if a person says, I don't want to work with them, you're not gonna make any money. Period. You're not gonna make money. I know some people like that today, that it's people that will not sit at the table with folks because of the way that their attitudes at the table. They're not inviting. They don't want to listen to anyone else's ideas. They don't want to give another person the opportunity to shine. So you have to balance those things out, especially if you're in a small business. You got to do partnerships. Oftentimes, because they say me. It's not you. It's the people that you're communicating with that's buying into your story. That's buying into your position that you want to grow. That's you're telling that, you know, it's a glass ceiling now. I can go as far as I need to go, but you can't go there by yourself. So you have to start really eating crow, and it's okay. I eat crow because I know I'm living to see another day to be in business. The banks love me. They love me because of my attitude. I don't think for just myself. I'm thinking if they got a problem with somebody else, I'm giving them free advice to help the other person because of what I've been through, what I've done. I have a situation right now with a bank where they got a company that they're doing, this is their first time doing a partnership on a $500,000 deal. And they said, well, you know, how do I know that this company is going to do their part of the business? And so I asked them, I said, so what's the percentage? So they said, well, they're supposed to get 13%. I said, well, why don't you guys invest in a lot box? Let the money go to the lot box, pay the bank 4% to use the lot box so they can distribute the money. Oh, we can do that. Yeah, let's get the bank on the phone and let's get a lot box and do that so you can feel secure about doing your deal. It's going to cost you 4%, but you split the 4% between you and your business partner that you don't know. But that comes from experience.
Yeah.
And it's funny you should say that. You had mentioned that you should always be positive, even in negative situations. And I had actually picked up Myers the store, because that Christmas, first of all, I hate shopping. So me going grocery shopping is like amazing, right? But I went grocery shopping for this family because I found at the last minute they didn't have food for Christmas. So I had a basket full of stuff. I already hate shopping. I get up to the register to pay and they wouldn't accept my check. So I'm like irritated, right? So I called Telecheck and they went, no, if you see on the back of the check, we did not decline your check. Myers declined your check. So I'm furious. So then Telecheck says, well, since we didn't decline it, we're going to accept the check. You just have to follow up with Myers. So they go back and re-ring all my groceries, accept the check. After Christmas is over, I called the CEO of Myers and said, and explained the scenario. And he said, well, Telecheck declined. I went, no, Telecheck printed on the back of the check that they did not decline this check, that you declined it, which is why I'm calling you. He went, He says, they did. Can you send me a copy of the check? I sent it the front and the back. Sent it over. Sure enough, it's printed on the back, just like I said. But it's what they did next that blew me out. They went back and listened to the recorded call to see how I behaved. When they saw that I behaved very polite about the whole scenario, stuff happens, I turned around and says, I think I need some money from you guys. I think you need to invest in Detroit because I didn't think that that was cool. So they had been my sponsor for like 5 years over the scenario and then got that scenario fixed because some executive thought they were being really smart and thought they were going to limit loss, not realizing it created another headache. And the CEO didn't even know about it, right? So being nice pays, and also you never know what the scenario is going to turn into.
Right.
And so you have to be, as a business, moving from employee to a business owner, you never know what the opportunity will lead you to and what conversations you'll have in the midst of doing just regular transactional business.
You know, the next thing that I'm glad you said that. The next thing, when you're going into business to be an entrepreneur, volunteerism is very important before you quit that job. Because if you volunteer on a regular basis, you're going to meet those people that have the same type of thought process that you have, right? Birds of a feather flock together. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs are volunteering so they can meet people to get their business. So those are behaviors that a lot of African Americans aren't going on the weekend to volunteer. I'll tell you a story, Mr. the Marina. Oh man, why can't I think of this man's name? Who owned the marina downtown that has the houses that built all the $1 million houses? Jerome Morgan. All right, so years ago, I went to volunteer. Matter of fact, my grandfather told me to go volunteer out in Southwest Detroit to clean the viaducts. So I went out Southwest. They cleaned the streets. I'm breaking down the side of the viaduct. And then this another guy, he getting down. Boy, this man wrecked. And I'm saying, this man, he can't outdo my area. So I'm really getting it. And that's how we built our relationship years ago. And he and my grandfather ended up being friends from Alabama. So fast forward, I'm doing some business with some young people that needed jobs, right? They was in and out of getting in trouble. Mr. Morgan gave 5 of those kids the opportunity to do the lawn, the landscaping on the marina and on his properties. So at the end of the day, you know, those are the type of things that we got to go through, you know, to build relationships in our community. And one of the young men, he actually has a lawn service. I was kind of talking about this the other day, that he has a lawn service that he's working, and that from that experience of our relationships. So, you know, you never know who you're going to meet. So you got to have a positive attitude, and you never know where it's going to go. Because once you say you in business, people want to know about people in business, because you're thinking on a higher level. It's a different level than being an employee. Your behavior from being an employee to being a business owner is 2 different behaviors. You cannot have that same behavior. It just doesn't work. Because when you're a 9-to-5er, you can't wait till 5 o'clock comes. When you're an entrepreneur, it's all you own all day. And it's not a light switch turn on and off. You own because you want to make money. You want to be known for making money. Because
it's funny, yeah, it's funny you should say that, because that volunteerism, you're right. You don't see a lot of African Americans do.
no, my friends say, no, I'm not going to do that. Why are you going to do that? I'm like, what? You talk about you want to have money, you want to make money. What's the behaviors of wealthy people? The behaviors of wealthy people is to volunteer because they're excited about who they are and what they've done.
Right.
They want to give money back. Okay? You want to be around those people because you want to be able to solve a problem for them so you can get paid. You can't make no money hanging around a bunch of broke people. You can't do it. I don't want to do it.
Broke people think broke.
Not, right, and they get you in trouble too. I went through that. We was with the medical supply store. My first year, we did a million two, the first year, and it's some guys from the hospital that started gravitating to me, and I let my guard down because I was always, that business relationship with people that's in business where you're spending money and doing business with. You don't really supposed to hang out with folks like that. I let my guard down. Next thing I know, we throwing parties. We did a pharmaceutical rep party 3-4 years in a row. My discipline changed. I got the big head, and you got to be disciplined. You got to be around people that have the same goals as you. Because if you don't, you're going to slip. You really going to slip. Yeah. And it's not being arrogant. It's not being mean. It's hey, I got a goal. My goal is to make sure I can run $300,000 to myself every year. That's the goal. So you got to make $1 million. You got to have $1 million worth of revenue to have that kind of money for yourself. You got to. Right. And if a person telling you, okay, I got $1 million business, all you got to do is ask, so what do you pay yourself? $150,000, $250,000? Because a lot of that money is going to taxes. And then you got employees you got to pay. You got people you got to pay. So it's cool to say, yeah, I'm running $1 million, $1 million too. Okay, so but then I if I'm not talking to the right people, I can't grow that $1 million. I gotta grow. I gotta sustain $1 million. That's hard enough as is, because once folks found out that I was making money in medical supplies, everybody wanted to be in the medical supply business. They was teaching my son how to do medical supplies. Can you? I need to mentor my kid. I'm saying, okay, I can mentor him, but you got to have $100,000 just to get in the game.
Right.
So you got to prepare. You got to prepare. That's why you can't say, I'm going to go into business. You just can't quit your job and go into business the next day. You got to
Jason, let me say this, because you and Ida touched upon something that, like you said, is overlooked in the Black community, because I was working, for, I said DPS, an 8-hour job plus some overtime. But I was also coaching girls volleyball and running a mentoring group, plus had kids and, and is married. But those experiences I gained through volunteering helped set me up for what I'm doing now, because it taught me how you have to be patient in business, but you also have to be focused and disciplined. And one of the distractions in the Black community is we want to get entertained, but we don't understand. In my job, I was getting entertained and getting paid, but I was the lowest person pretty much on the total pole economically, but wealthy on the other side, because like you said, you make relationships with people. Here I am, the lowest person on the totem pole, meeting people who were millionaires, because they wanted to come in, like you said, reach back and help young African-American males. Mm-hmm. So now, moving fast forward, I went and did the same thing. I volunteered with this company, made relationships, met a whole lot of unique people who were like-minded, not just in Detroit, but literally now around the world. And so now, comes the benefits. Now the business is evolving, because I realized after all I had mentioned I did initially, I got laid off. So it showed me I had to come up with a program of my own, because they're not trying to educate people to become business owners. They just want to educate people to fill jobs.
Right.
But as people in general, we have all kind of skill sets, but nobody is teaching that in a public school environment. They're not teaching you that you can work, you should work for somebody else until you can do better.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to develop your personal skill sets so that you can make those transitions, because you always get laid off of a job, or you always get kicked off of a job, and it'll come at a time when you least expect it.
Right.
But you always have to grow as a person so that you can segue into the next venture. And you got to be resilient. A lot of people, if they lose their jobs, they lose their mind. And the depression showed that. There was a
Absolutely.
lot of people who made a whole lot of money in the 1930s, you know. And this is what's amazing. And I get excited by being in this business, because not only do I get to see the people who are resilient and resourceful, you know, I get to interact with them and learn from them, and we learn from each other. Then with that collective learning
Right.
makes us all stronger.
And it makes
Because
it
at
easier
the
too.
end of the day, see, we're working under what's called a parasitic economic business model. And if you know anything about a parasite needs a host. Well, you know, mainly African Americans are the hosts, because if you took African Americans out of the economic system in America and pretty much around the world economy would collapse.
And
But
it's
they
funny.
don't want people to know that,
Mhm.
because that leaves them out of the equation, and that's not, you know, a racist thing. That's fact.
But I'm going to tell you where that fact comes from. Right now in America, African Americans annually have income of $1.7 trillion, which is larger than the country of Russia.
Yes.
But here's what's interesting. We have a reputation for being consumers and spenders.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why the pressure is on to open up the states because of this COVID crisis, because they want us to go and spend. So they opened up, I noticed in Georgia, hair salons, barber shops, and restaurants, things that Black people frequent, nail salons, because they need them to spend that money. Because we are the hosts, we just don't realize that a lot of what happens in the economy happens with us, and that we kind of are a consumer spenders, and that's what makes the American economy or any economy grow, is how people spend. Because as they spend, they give money to other business owners. Those business owners give money to manufacturers or distributors, and so on and so on and so on. But we don't understand that's how the economy grows.
You know, and let me say this too. One of the things I found in paying attention to surveys, you'll find things like Black people buy more movie tickets and watch more TV, and are up to date on technology more than any other ethnic group. But they have those numbers and they exploit them. And so with the company I'm working with, and I don't own it, but like Jason said, when you practice it, you get to be fluent in it.
Right.
You know, but so I can, you know, talk to anybody about this, and I can tell by their body language, you know, their visual marks, if they're really understanding what I'm saying, because I can tell one person, you can get into the entertainment business for $20 a month. One person will say, yeah, okay, sure. Another person will say, really? Tell me more. But as a block of people, African Americans are so into the entertainment industry already and social media and everything else. They don't know they're making people trillionaires just by making their companies a household name, you know, like this platform we're using now. They don't know where it came from. They don't know who owns it. They don't care.
And you
But
know, I'm glad you made that point. My brother, he's not really, he's an entrepreneur, but he says, I bet, he always says this during the family holidays, I bet I own more companies than you do. And what he's talking about is the stock market.
Yep.
And that's something that I didn't do, but what I'm talking to my nephew and my cousin, my younger cousins about is, you don't have to have $10,000, $15,000 to start a business. You can start off, turn your holiday, your Christmas money, turn your birthday money, turn that Easter suit money, turn that into a stock you can buy, and let's be smarter than our parents was. Let's do something different. And right now, that's our conversation is, give me 5 things you would do different in your life. And we're telling the younger ones, you know what? Ask to buy a piece of stock, period, because it's going to go down, but it's going to go up, and you can make money off of that. And you can own part of Zoom. You can own part of Campbell Soup. You can own, you know, the things that the companies that's in your community that's doing business in the community. You can own a piece of that company.
Right? And I have to tell you, what most people don't realize, I'm an economist by training, the fortune happens at the bottom anyway. We don't realize it. There are companies that African Americans use that are wealthy, like McDonald's, KFC that's owned by Yum's brand, Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Chrysler. Like I bought Ford stock because I felt that their stock was low in this pandemic, and it's been going up.
And they pay dividends.
Wait a minute. And not only that, I had the nerves to send a note to the William Clay Ford to say to him that my stock wasn't going up fast enough because they needed sizzle. and they sent back a response, right? Which was kind of hilarious because the person in their office I actually knew, but it's kind of really even funnier. But the issue is, as an employee, you have an opportunity to do a lot of things. As an employee, not only can you invest in stock, you have a 401k, which allows you to invest in stock, so you can do it tax deferred. Number 2, I said to my son, who had gotten $150,000 as a startup, that he needed to go work for somebody, and he was really, really offended. And so eventually I had to say to him, the reason why I'm telling you to go work for somebody else and you just got this startup money is that you're missing some skills. I can't teach you those skills. You can't learn them out of a book, but you're going to go to a company that does what you want to do, and you're going to make those people around you your mastermind, and they're going to teach you your industry before you blow your money. And so he didn't get that initially. It took him blowing the first 90,000 that he finally went, Mama, why did you tell me to go work for a company again? First of all, you got extra money in your pocket, and you need to go learn the business of business.
I'm glad you said that.
The business of business.
When I started a medical supply store, people was coming in with all their scripts. So the doctors would put all their scripts when you get discharged from the hospital. All your scripts would be, you would get your home care scripts, your pharmacy script, and your medical equipment scripts. So I said I wanted a pharmacy, but I'm not a pharmacist. I went to Hamtramck and talked to Sam at Save More Pharmacy in Hamtramck, and I worked for him for free for 6 months, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. so I could learn how to do pharmacy business and open a pharmacy. It took me
Right.
6 months to do the documentation, to get the pharmacy built. We built the pharmacy in my building on my medical supply store, so we could have more revenue come in. And he also helped me get a pharmacist because I worked for him for free. And I brought some value because I got great customer service skills. I don't have a problem talking to people. I don't have a problem understanding how to make people feel good. I'm cool with that. But I learned how to do paperwork and I learned how to do contracting when it came to pharmacy. But I went to work for free because I really wanted to do it because I saw the value add it had to my bottom line. And when you want to look at selling a business, you have to make sure that you have a revenue coming in from 5 to 6 different places, so somebody want to buy that from you. Because when you're building a company, you're supposed, when you first start your business, you're building it to sell it once you start. You don't say I'm going to be in this business for 5 years and then sell it. No, that's not how that works. You start from the onset to say, how do I keep revenues? How do I contain costs? How do I make sure that every relationship I have is bringing a dollar figure in or a contract in under this tax ID umbrella that create value? So the more contracts you have for your company, the more valuable it is, because it's hard for people to get contracts. That's why business with contracts sell pretty fast, especially if they're unlimited. So if you have a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield and you're meeting their criteria, they tell you what the criteria is to keep their contract. You might have that contract for 20 years. So a company can say, you know what, they got a contract, plus they got we got 20,000 people that have diabetic supplies. You already got people, and you know that's going to grow. So that makes it attractive. So if you put, you're looking at how do you add value to your company. So go on to volunteer or go to work for free for somebody, it's a wonderful thing. Whatever business that you want to be in, because you're not doing anything but actually, when you go volunteer for somebody, that a business that you want to be in, you're shedding off losses off your life. Because if you go say, I'm gonna start a business, you know nothing about that business, you're gonna have some L's. Your first 5 years is pretty much gonna be a loss because you have to learn.
Right.
But if you go in and you say, you know what, I do want a business, I want to be able to partner with you down the road, I'm coming in on my off days to work for you for free so I can learn this business. That person is gonna respect you. And they're gonna want you to succeed.
And Jason, it's funny you said that because I was doing it and didn't know it. I just like being in the thick of things, because I like to learn, but I never had a business acumen, but I knew, how to do some production type stuff. And so, and I don't know if I can mention the business, but I got into it on a production side, but evolved from there. Because I got customer service in my lineage.
Yes, you do.
My dad worked for the city of Detroit. He ran Considine Recreation Center. My mother, she, as little as she worked in the prison system for a minute. She was a nurse. She worked Salvation Army, helping alcoholics. She worked for Michigan Rehab, helping people, who had disabilities find jobs and stuff. But she was also a business mind, and I didn't know that growing up. But it's like all those things are there, but it's like planting seeds in your own garden. You got to nurture those seeds. And I tell people all the time, if you sit there and watch that seed try to develop, you're going to feel like you're wasting your time. But if you've ever done any gardening, you know you plant the seed, you water the seed, you keep the weeds out. You're doing other things. You're not just standing over the seed, telling them, grow, seed, grow. It don't work that way, and it's just fascinating the things, because and I was thinking as you guys were talking, and Ida will talk offline, to share these type of conversations on our website will make the company and everybody else successful, because going back to what I said about a parasitic economic business model, everything that's being done on social media and the other businesses, it's a one-way transaction. They tell you can do things for free, but the minute you sign up with them, what pops up? Commercials.
Absolutely, which they then got sponsored.
But see, the thing is, it's commercials, not only the ones they pick, but those are businesses of people in their circle. And so one thing that I learned in this business is that we have to work together because everybody else is. So the path for success is already there. We in our community of people, we can work with everybody else. We've been doing that, no problem. But we have to work amongst ourselves, and it doesn't have to be a large group, but it just has to be a focus group. Right. And understanding is power in the collective.
You know what? I'm glad you said that.
Me
because
too.
when you're looking at your business and you want to get to a small business, you have to understand what does your supply chain and your small business look like, right? What is it that I need that I have? What is it that I need that I don't have? So when it comes to orientation, I'm good at that. I can stand in front of a group of people and communicate effectively. When it comes to typing something out, I got the hardest time because I never really learned how to type because I've always had somebody do that for me. And now that I'm transitioning to this community development piece, and it's a lot of typing. I didn't know you had to do all this typing in community development. I don't like it. So you have to build relationships with people who can get those kind of things done, right? So you have to know every piece of that supply chain where you make your money at, because you don't want to say, well, I want to be a roofer. Why do you want to be a roofer? Because I don't want a boss. That's the worst thing you can say.
Right.
First of all, you have to understand when the supplies come in from the roofing company to know when you can get your discounts. You gotta set up in the wintertime all your roofing jobs, winter, summertime, for when summertime comes, and then you want to be able to purchase your supplies or get your credit line or cut your deal during the wintertime when that roofing company that supplier is not selling it, or you can get your discount. So you got to know where you're going to make your money and your margins. So you have to understand where your supply chain is for everything that you're doing. And that means while you're at your regular job, when you get off your regular job, you got to start your entrepreneurship job. Right. You have to, because it's not going to happen overnight. And then you have to get you some soldiers. You got to be able to get a script for your team, the people that say they're your friends. Here's the script. Let's practice the script because I need you to know about my business. And I need you to tell these type of people about my business. And guess what's happening? They're learning how to be your teammate, and they're learning how to be entrepreneurs too, which they want to do, but they just don't have a clue how to do it. And at the end of the day, you can make it fun because now your talk path is going to change. If I'm not talking about business, I'm not talking to you. Period.
Right.
I can't do it. Because number one, when you look at the Lions, what the Lions doing? They winning. They on TV making $60,000 a game. The basketball players making $80,000 a game. And I'm entertaining them. I'm watching them. Me watching them make money. It's not doing anything for me. I need to be spending my time. I'm spending right now. I'm spending my time watching YouTube videos on stormwater infrastructure because that's part of community development. So I'm watching the shows on YouTube that can educate me. I'm going to sleep listening to videos on leadership because I want to make sure that's in my subliminal mind. You have to really prep yourself and have in preparation every day for what you want your future to look like. You have to pour into yourself on a regular basis. So I'm watching the videos that can help me communicate effectively with people, that can make people a way for people to believe in me, what I'm saying. So when I go to the table, I heard about him. I heard what he's done. Yeah, he's gonna keep his word. So those things are very important. Character. Black folks got to go back to their character. If you want to be in business, what is your character? Right. Are you winning? Or are you losing?
And with that, I'm going to jump in on that. And sometimes your character, that volunteer piece, and I just hone in on that a lot, because a lot of times the volunteer is not just learning the business. The volunteerism is to show them who your character, who you are as
humility.
Because if you're going to do it for free and you're doing it very focused and diligent, then they will be open to write you a check. But a lot of times we don't think about that. My first client, DPS, Detroit Public School, is how I picked them up that way, because I was this super parent volunteer. But I was a super parent volunteer because I was trying to learn curriculum, because I wanted to jump into the curriculum, but I'm not a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the best way I did that, I did all the scut work that nobody ever wanted to do. And so they start putting me on curriculum committees, start putting me on technology committees on the school level. And then it went from the school level to the regional area level. And then it went from the area to the central office. And then next thing I know, I'm sitting in a party and they offer me a contract. But you have to start someplace. And the place you start is where you can shine your character.
Right.
Now, when you're an employee, the same thing happens in your job. There are a lot of things that are outside of your job description that if you did can move you in other places. And I remember I was at an engineering consulting firm, and I never had enough work for me anyway. So I went to each one of the departments, because I was in HR, and asked them, is there any work that they needed to get done that nobody else wants to do? And the look on their face was like crazy. I asked that from the architect department, even though I'm not an architect. I opted for the operations. I did it for every department in our firm in engineering, even though I'm not an engineer. So they were giving me these crazy, I do call them scut work, that nobody else really wanted to do, but I learned a lot about the business. Well, I had learned so much about the business that the operations person said, you seem like you don't have enough work. I said, never. He says, why don't you be part-time while you're working for HR? I'm going to ask if you can work part-time for me. I went, sure. I was like, what do you got me doing? And he told me what he was going to have me doing. And it was the scut work I was already doing, but they upgraded it a couple levels. So you never know what that will lead to you, whether it's in a volunteer for a charity or if it's volunteering on your job. And so I got a couple promotions when I was there, because I would do any of the work that nobody else wanted to do and figure it out, even if they didn't give me instructions.
You know, that took me to the next thing that I was going to talk about is, if nobody knows you, they can't do business with you.
Right.
People have to know you to do business with you. They have to know your name. They have to know what you're about. So volunteerism is a good billboard at the end of the day. And it gives you opportunity to tell your story.
Right.
And they're going to listen. You're doing your work for free. So if I could do my spiel and I can talk about what my business is, I can talk about my goals, and I can talk about what I need to fulfill my goals, because I'm volunteering someplace, I'm going to tell what I need too. Don't think I'm not. I'm not going to be apologetic about that either, because I have some needs I got to fulfill at the same time. And you got to be deliberate about your communication when you're volunteering. You got to be deliberate about what you do, period. Black people have to learn how to be deliberate. I'm not going to help somebody get in office if they don't agree to help me with my goals. Bottom line. Because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure them 5,000 people I got on Facebook know that you didn't treat me right. and I'm not afraid to do that at all. Yeah. Because look, if we don't hold each other accountable, we're going to continue to lose. And I'm not trying to lose.
Now we only got about 12 more minutes.
I'm telling, listen, my whole thing is how are we winning? Okay, so look, let's go back to it. When you enter employee jobs, you got to look at time management, because you want to be able to take that time, learn the process and skills for where you are today. When I worked at Allstate Insurance Company, I always paid attention to their policies and procedures. And then when I got into business, I took the same policies and procedures that I learned at Allstate when I was an insurance adjuster, and I turned that into the same thing. Whatever business I look at what are my policies from onset. I make sure we understand what our policy and our process is from when you talk to a person on the telephone to get them to the end goal, what you want to do. So you got to make sure you're managing those policies and procedures wherever your job is. You take that to the bank. So you take that employee handbook that you got at work, take that home and make yourself an employee handbook. Everything you need to be an entrepreneur, you already have it. So you take that that you take that on the weekend. You get up just like you get up to go to your job. You get up and go to your job, your entrepreneurship job. You get up at 5:30 in the morning and you get started. You get started on that phone. You get started on social media. You get started on, what should my post be about my business? What do I have to say that's inspiring? What can I go do? Do I need to go to Home Depot? Do I need to go look at fabric if I'm going to do a t-shirt company? Who am I buying from? How do I get to the buyers that I'm going to be buying my product from, whoever my supply chain is? You have to start managing your time wisely, because if you want to get out of the rat race of being in that job, it's a lot of things you got to do. It comes down to talking to people. I got a problem with people who are just making it, but they want to go on a vacation. Why are you telling me that you want to be an entrepreneur, but you go on this vacation? Okay, you got to cut that out. If people are talking about going on a cruise, going on a vacation, you don't need to talk to them, because they're going to entice you to doing what they want you to do. If a person's not talking about entrepreneurship, if they're not talking about, and they don't have to talk about entrepreneurship, they have to be talking about growth. Okay, because you grow and be wealthy on the job too. You have to be disciplined on your conversation and the people that you're around. Birds of a feather flock together. If you're gonna be weak, you're gonna continue to stay around a bunch of weak folks. So let's do a diet. If you're gonna be looking to be an entrepreneur, let's get on a diet. How are we managing our time on the weekend? Put yourself on a diet. Who are we talking to? Make yourself a list of the friends that talk about partying, having a good time, wasting valuable conversation, the people who's not reading. Make a list. And you can still talk to those people, but I ain't talking to you every day.
Right.
Put yourself on a diet, a winning diet. I want to win. If they ain't talking about winning at something, I don't want to talk to you. How are we winning? How are we winning our relationship? I remember I called Don. We had some kids. We did a program a couple years ago in Illinois. I called Don. He said, I'm coming. He came. He didn't just come by himself. He brought some people with him. He brought some young people with him. We remember that we had about 40 kids.
Yeah, that's still up on the Facebook page.
Right, doing interviews with kids. You got to be around people that want to show up and get it done, and show the next generation that we can win, and show yourself you can win.
Right.
Because you got
that's the key.
You toying in your brain. You telling yourself, well, I could have did this better. No, it's the process. What did I learn from not doing it that way? I had an opportunity to do a grant for $250,000, and I know the people on the board. But guess what? There's some things that I just didn't do right, and I have to be okay with myself and say, okay, I wrote it down. I scolded myself. I wrote it down. I told the team, this is what we're gonna do better next time. We have to, because we know too many people to win. We losing because of us. You don't lose because of somebody else. You lose because of what you didn't do. And you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to put yourself on a diet. You have to, if you want to win. You can't eat out every week. Matter of fact, my grandparents never really went on they never went out to eat. I never saw them go out to eat. My grandma cooked, but they built 3 subdivisions in their lifetime with their own money.
Right.
And now I'm understanding. We make all these excuses, but they had less than what we got right now. But they winning.
Right. And that's the importance of history in it too.
But the one exception, if you're entertaining someone for business.
Hey, if you entertain,
I'm good for that.
You can do that. But you have to know, you have to put, that's a budget. You still got to budget that out. I got in trouble one year. I spent $15,000 on food and beverages. I got a lot of trouble that year. Right, I got scolded because I couldn't even say, you have to be, if I'm spending money and time with you, I gotta know how I'm gonna get that back.
But when I say spending that, sometimes is getting out of your comfort zone. When I took my automation Workz to the auto show, that happened because of the German Business Chamber of Commerce, and I would hang out with them. I don't even drink beer, but they drank beer and they did sausage often. So I was hanging out with this consulting firm who had gotten this contract from the state of Michigan. And I asked him if I could do this event. He sent me back to the state of Michigan. They sent me back to him and he gave me approval. But I know that would not have happened had I not been hanging out with him with his German beer, because he loved German beer, sausage, and chocolate.
But that's an investment though.
Right.
That's an investment. That's called an intellectual investment. That's an intellectual investment to take you to another level. So you that's part of your diet though. Those are the things that you put in your diet. Diet doesn't mean bad. That means I'm gonna get fit.
Right.
I want to hang out with the people who speak in my language and speaking a better language than what I'm speaking.
And it puts you in a different position because I had to look the other day. I'd gotten a call from somebody saying, "You're hanging out with the German Business Council?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wonder how they know that," right? So I said, "How do you know that?" They said, "Because you were in D Business the other day." I went, "Was I?" They had taken pictures at an event that I was, and of course there's hardly no African Americans there. So of course I ended up in the photos. I hadn't even noticed. I remember them taking the photos because I was posing for them. But the point is that you have to position yourself where you want to go. Now people go, "Why are you hanging out with the German Business Chamber of Commerce?" First of all, they own a lot of manufacturers. They don't have a lot of diversity. So when I have this diversity conversation, they listen because they need somebody they can talk to. So I talk to them knowing that's the case because it's not that many of us around them. And I learn a lot of things from them. And so it puts me in a position that when I want to talk to a manufacturer, I can go to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm trying to do A, B, and C. Can you do it for me?" "Nope, but Bros can do it." And then I go over to Bros.
There you go. But it's just widening your circle. It's making you have a diverse circle. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to hang around entrepreneurs. You have to hang around business people because the talk path of an employee is different from an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs talk about leadership. They talk about positivity. They talk about getting things done. Most of all, they talk about winning. I don't want to talk to you if we talk about losing because I'm not losing. If I gotta get up 2 hours early to make a win, I'm getting up 2 hours earlier.
And it's funny you mentioned diet, and you turned on something in my mind. And I didn't realize at an early age, my dad was prepping me for success because him being a baseball coach, he used to tell us as young men, if you want to be successful in something, and we'll use baseball, he said, you got to eat baseball, think baseball, sleep baseball, dream baseball, talk baseball. And you just take that same philosophy and you move it into an entrepreneurship mindset.
Right.
And then the light comes on. Because like Ida said, she did that to grow her business and help them grow theirs. As long as people working together, there is no racial line.
Right, because green is green.
But the thing is, we as people of color, African Americans, Black, whatever, but like-minded people have to realize that we have to stop making other people extremely wealthy and then turn around and ask the question why we extremely broke.
Right, it's your behavior.
Exactly. We have to realize that the activities you do on social media is not taking you along for the ride to wealth and prosperity, not just for yourself, but for generations. We have to look at it as a business partnership that's going to make each group improve at the same level, or we improve more than they improve because they've had a head start. Yeah. And I'm not apologetic about it because we've helped every culture in the world prosper.
But our own. But that goes back to being deliberate about your conversation, being deliberate about the actions that you have, because we all have one thing, 24 hours in a day. We got 24 hours in a day. You got to make sure you know what you're doing with your 24 hours. Who are you talking to and why are you talking to them?
Right.
And what's my goal? And don't be afraid to tell a person, hey, look, after I talk to you, this is what I want my goal to be.
And I agree with that 100%, but we're at the end of our time. Jason, I thank you. And I keep saying Jason needs to write a book. This is not my helping him on his path to his book, because he has so much knowledge at such a young age of having ran 3 or 4 businesses. that he has sold. And I'm glad that he was able to come onto our show, but it was even more so that you guys were able to hear him speak about what he's doing, because he's always so busy. He doesn't have time to speak a lot of the time. But I want you to do me a favor, everyone, is to ask your friends to join us next Thursday. Next Thursday, we have Gail Perry Mason, who's going to come on about getting your finances in order. She's going to talk about what all this money flowing through the economy right now, that even though we're in the crisis, how we can better ourselves financially to expand our entrepreneurship, whether we're doing it external or whether we're doing it internal at a company. And so I want you to bring your friends back and tell people, send notes out via social media to profit how we as a mastermind group, because the way I envision this AutoWorkz Insights is not only a sharing of discussion from the speakers, but as a mastermind for us to grow and talk to each other so that we can all grow and profit economically together. And with that, I'd like to say thank you and have a good day.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.